Greetings, booktubers, and welcome back to Grammaticus Books for the promised video that I said at the end of my last one that I would give you guys, and that is how I got a first edition Chilton Press 1965 of the novel by Frank Herbert, Dune. And this is it right here. And this is going to be the story of how I got this for $8. It's not a overly long story, and the Reader's Digest condensed version is I got really lucky. That's the Reader's Digest condensed version. But the longer version of it is that I live in Capital City, just outside of Capital City. If I have some trouble getting that back on the shelf there, without damaging that book cover any more than it is. It's a little chipped up on the top. I live in a capital city, or just outside the capital city of one of the states in the Midwest, and it's got a large number of universities, but surprisingly doesn't have a lot of used bookstores to go and pick from. So I went out and got on trusty Google one day, just this past summer, it was early summer, and did a search for used bookstores. And I found one that popped up on Google that was on the other side of the city, in not one of the best areas of the city, but not the worst area of the city, that claimed that it was the biggest large used bookstore in Columbus, Ohio, which I had my doubts, but I was like, all right, I'll put you to your test. I'll give it a try. And on the weekend, they were only open on weekends, according to their website. I drove over and got to the area. And I get there and I can't find the used bookstore. So I'm circling the block a couple times when it finally dawns on me that the used bookstore is inside of this 1950s era factory warehouse that's right there on the corner. So I find a place to park my car on the side of the street. I walk around and the door is propped open. It's made half over of plywood where it's been broken out. It's partially open. And inside there's a group of about 3 or 4 young guys. They're sitting at a table, a very long wooden table, and they're playing Go. And I'm like, am I in the right spot? What is this place? I mean, the address matches up. I'm looking at this building, though, that looks like, it was a factory sewing machine sweatshop out of the 50s. And one of the guys looks up from his Go game and he goes, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yes, I'm, looking for this used bookstore. Am I in the right spot?" And like, "Yeah, come on in. This is where the local Go Club meets here on weekends, but it's also the used bookstore." So I step into it, and it's a very long, open building, and half of it has been converted over into a shipping and packaging company that they're running off of the left side of it. But then on the right side of it, they've got down the length of it just a rows of bookshelves, not very nice bookshelves. I think some of them were supported up with cinder blocks with wood beams, planks between them, and it's lit with Christmas lights. It's literally lit up with Christmas lights. And not because it was festive. That was their cheapest, easiest way to provide lighting through the aisles. And it's like, "Well, can I help you find anything?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just looking for, vintage science fiction paperbacks." And the guy's like, "Well, if we have any, they'll be down this aisle right here, back on the left." So I walk down, I take a look, and there's nothing. I mean, there's not only is there not any vintage science fiction, paperback or otherwise, there's no science fiction. So I turn around, I come back out, and the guy's like, "Well, did you find anything?" I was like, "No, I didn't, but thank you for allowing me to go back and look." When he stands up and he says, from his Go game, and he says, "Well, wait a minute. We just did an estate sale. We bought a book collection from a professor who passed away, and they're in these boxes over here on the left. If you want, you're welcome to go through the boxes and look for some science fiction. I thought I saw science fiction books in there when we were boxing it up and bringing it back to the store." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to do that." So he walks over and he points out, this box here and this box here are the ones where the science fiction would be in them. So I open them up and I start looking through them. And sure enough, there's probably 15 to 20 hardback science fiction books in there. And the first one that I came across was this one right here, which is Harry Harrison's The Adventures of the Stainless Steel Rat in hardback, with this nice vintage dust jacket artwork on it. And it was a collection of 3 stories, of 3 stainless steel rat novels. The first one, The Stainless Steel Rat, The Stainless Steel Rat's Revenge, and The Stainless Steel Rat Saves the World. And I had fond memories of the Stainless Steel Rat from when I was a kid, so I went ahead and I pulled that one out for him. None of these are priced, mind you. They're just sitting there. And then the second one that I came across that jumped out at me was this one here, which is Michael Moorcock, The Elric Saga Part 1. I don't think they had Part 2, but they did have Part 1, and I just loved that cover art. It's a wraparound cover, and it's just magnificent. In fact, it's so magnificent, I've got to open it up and see if I can figure out if it says who credits who that artist is, because he deserves to get some credit here for having created such a beautiful piece of art of Elric of Melniboné. All right, printing Sail on the Seas, Weird White Wolf. Come on, you got to give him credit here somewhere. You tell me that, wow, I don't think they did credit him. I will look it up and I'll put it up in the run in the comments on the video, because I mean, that is just stunning artwork. I love the detail in it, the amount of line work that went into making that, and the colors, and it's just beautiful. I mean, to me, that is Elric of Melniboné. I'm not a giant Elric fan. Michael Moorcock he's a wonderful author. He's a wonderful writer. He writes fantastic fantasy, and this is certainly one of the pillars of fantasy from what I would call the Vintage Age, probably a little after the Vintage Age. But I always find Elric stories to be sort of lacking in hope and optimism. And for me, that's kind of a negative. So I did read that one front to back, and I'll do an Elric of Melniboné video here sometime in the future. But today, we're talking about Dune. So then the third book I come across is I see this. And I don't see the Dune, I just see the cover art on it, which is by John Schoner. And it just jumped out at me. I was like, wow, that is really different. The colors and the layout, the design of it, it just really leaped off the page at me. It looks like an oil painting that is just layered up. That's the impression that I get from this. So I picked it up and I see, hey, Frank Herbert, Dune. I had no idea at this time that this was a Chilton Press first edition, but I didn't have a hardback cover version of Dune. All I had was a mass market paperback version, which I think my daughter has borrowed and is no longer in my library. I'm gonna have to replace it, but good on her if she's reading it. So I pulled this one out and was like, you know what? I don't have a hardback version. I really, really like that cover artwork on there on the dust jacket. So I'll throw that one on with these other two books and then take them up front and have the guy price these out. Because remember, these are just coming straight out of the boxes from this estate sale, and he hasn't priced any of them. So he goes through, he prices these, and I got a couple others as well. And he priced the books at around between $8 and $12 each. I think the Harry Harrison Stainless Steel Rat came in around $6. This was about $10 for this one. And then he picks this one up and he looks at it. He looks at it for a while and he goes, $8. And I'm like, yeah, I'll take that for $8. That sounds about right. So I paid the man his cash and I walked out and got in my car. I got home and started doing the research on it. And lo and behold, I flip it open, and here inside on the inside cover, just about floored me when it dawned on me that this was a first edition. I don't collect Dune books. It's not a series of novels of Dune collectibles or memorabilia. But right there, copyright 1965 by Frank Herbert, all rights reserved, the Chilton Publishing Company. I'm like, wow, I didn't even know which company had produced this originally as a first edition. So I looked it up, and sure enough, this is the actual first edition by Chilton Press, 1965, Frank Herbert's Dune, with this just amazing artwork on the dust jacket. The book is in excellent condition. There's no mold on it. It's in nice shape, no dings in it. The cover itself, the binding on it is good shape. The dust jacket has taken some dings along the top of it, and it's got some tape on the back of the dust jacket holding it in here. There's a real nice map of Dune on the back cover there of the dust jacket, and it's a little chewed up down here as well. But other than that, for $8, I'm calling this the used bookstore buy of the decade, at least for me. This is it right there. And that in a nutshell is the story about how I got a hardcover first edition Chilton Press 1965 Frank Herbert's classic top-selling sci-fi book of all time, Dune. I will say something. When I got this and was looking at this cover, and then I went and I watched the movie, the new one, not the 1980 version, but the new version of the movie that just came out in the theaters. Was it 2 years ago, a year ago? There is a spot in the movie where they recreate this scene. The color pattern's a little different, but it is absolutely 100% an homage to this artwork by John Schoner that made its way into the most recent Dune movie. And I will take a snap a photo of that. I own the Dune movie. I couldn't find, pull it up online to get an image of it. So I just took a picture right off of the TV, playing it on my DVD on my TV here at home, and then sent it to myself. And I'll put these two up against each other so you can see that they 100% did an homage to Mr. Schoner, which I think is just fantastic. I really was happy to see that. I thought it was a nice touch. I was really happy with the new movie. I think they did a great job with it. And I'm really excited to see the second one, which is due to come out here anytime. But that's it. If you've had any great buys that you've gotten in a used bookstore, I'd love to hear about it. I will say something. I'm going to jump back. My last video was on the Berserker Wars with doing the novel Berserker by Fred Saberhagen. And I had I think it was a 1970 version of it. And then I found one of the original. I didn't realize I was going through my books here looking for my paperback of Dune and found this one, which I think might be the first time they published in paperback the collection of the short stories that were from 1963 to 1967 that made up that original Berserker novel. And I think this is that book, and which I didn't realize that I owned. So, copyright 1967. It is. First edition. This is going to be the first edition of the collection, the reprinting of those short stories that appeared in Galaxy Magazine from Fred Saberhagen. So just a little addendum there, a little postscript on the last video. Next video, I'll have this one up on Monday. I'll post it up there so you guys can check it out on Monday. I'll have another video out on Friday. And that's it for today. So take care, be safe, and hopefully I will be seeing you all in the future. So one last thing, real quick on this. A big, gigantic caveat to this whole story is that this first edition is a book club edition. So what does that mean? Well, it means it's still an authentic, true first edition. The book club edition came out simultaneously with the standard non-book club edition. But what it does mean for it is that instead of being worth thousands of dollars, it's worth hundreds of dollars. And that's it. I wanted to make sure that I got that up there. I don't think it would have been a completely honest video if I hadn't added that in there. And I almost forgot to put that in, that it is the book club edition, but it is still a legitimate first edition. Like I said, they were published at the same time. And that's a wrap for today. Thanks for tuning in and watching the video. I appreciate it. And take care, be safe, and I'll be seeing you later.